Welcome to Fun with Annuities with your host, me, Stan the Annuity Man, America's annuity agent. Can annuities be fun? Can contractual guarantees be fun? Absolutely they can. Find out the brutal facts about annuities with no sales pitches or high-pressure nonsense. Just the brutal and factual annuity truth, which is all you need to hear. Let's have some fun with annuities, and let's have that fun start right now. Welcome to Fun with Annuities. I'm your host, Stan, the Annuity Man, America's annuity agent, licensed in all 50 states. A repeat guest today. We are so happy to have him back. He really needs no introduction other than he is the smartest person in the room when it comes to fixed indexed annuities, also called index annuities, formerly called equity indexed annuities. He is unmatched. He's forgotten more than anyone's ever known about indexed annuities, but he has to wear a mask because this is a very, very touchy subject with the carriers out there and with clients and with agents, and the hate mail is going to come in, and that's okay. And without further ado, let me welcome to the program Mr. FIA-X. Welcome, Mr. X.
Well, that was quite an introduction.
That's what I do. That's how I roll.
Good night, everybody.
Tip your waitresses. Two shows nightly. All right, we're going to start this off in a different manner, Mr. X, because people always say, well, Stan, do you hate index annuities? No, I probably sell more than anyone on the planet, but we sell them properly, not the hype and not for the bonuses and for market upside with no downside. No, we don't. We sell them for what they will do, not what they might do. So, Mr. X, let's talk about some of the positives of indexed annuities, so people can kind of strip through the bad chicken dinner cinema on our pitches and the online stuff that they're seeing. Tell the people why these things do work and possibly have a fit in their portfolio.
Well, first and foremost, it's easy. Safety. Your principal may be safe depending on riders, or do they have a fee structure or a cap structure? They can be a little complicated, but the premise overall is guarantee a principal. Number one.
In a principal protection world of annuities, and I live in that will-do world, that's multi-year guarantee annuities, which is just the purest and simplest version of a CD product, because that gives you a guaranteed interest rate for a specific period of time. And then the other principal protection CD product are indexed annuities, and that's when the tops of agents' heads pop off, because that's not the sales pitch that they're pitching out there, which is really unfortunate. Mr. X, when you talk to your internal people at the carriers, are they frustrated with the messaging that's out there with indexed annuities?
Well, I think the carriers and them all are frustrated. They want to make sure everyone's acting in the best interest. I don't want anyone to think the insurance company's saying, do it this way.
Agreed.
I do think there's bad actors. I do think and it's not so much the bad actor as much as it is just not understanding, lack of education, lack of training, more of a salesman mentality than a planner or professional mentality. Professionals always make more than lay people. Mm-hmm. It's just how it works. Planners make more than salespeople, okay? But the problem is that those people that are the salespeople sell a lot of that sizzle, but there isn't any stake there when they get done. Partially because they don't understand, but also partially because some of them, like you say, might be sociopathic. They do understand, but they do it anyways.
There's bad people in all sales industries, not just the annuity industry. One of the things that we talk about all the time, off air, of course, and we're going to talk about it now, is you wish for a lot of things. You wish for six-pack abs. You wish to be taller. You wish to be more attractive. I understand all of those, Mr. X. But you also wish for indexed annuities to be more simple. Can you explain your wish list for that?
Well, first of all, I just believe that obviously safety, paramount. But the clients need to understand what they've purchased. And what I find is if the agent doesn't understand it, how is the client going to understand it? Because they're the conduit of the explanation. They may come in and say, look at this XYZ wizard index. Yeah, I never heard of that one. Oh, yeah, but it returned 25% over the last 10 years. Ooh, I like that one. And then the expectation is here, but the reality is over there. And that's where that disconnect, and that's where buyer's remorse and black eyes and all the negative things that we hear come about. I cannot tell you how many people say annuities are bad, Stan. I say, well, explain the annuity to me. And it's not even, the product they explain doesn't even exist.
And they already own one, which is Social Security. And a lot of people get mad when I say you can somewhat classify RMDs as an annuity, even though it's not. But it's a lifetime payment as long as there's money. Yeah, I mean,
it's a structured payment.
Yeah, I get a lot of emails from planners going, you need to stop with the RMDs as a forced annuity. I'm like, okay, but the definition is pretty clear. Getting back to the simplicity, and I do think that me and you are both waiting on a carrier to make it so simple that a 9-year-old could understand it. No offense to 9-year-olds. And we have actually thought about pooling our hundreds of millions of dollars that we fictitiously have into just our own annuity company and coming out with it. I do think the first carrier that calls a Stan the Annuity Man, America's Annuity Agent, said, I have something so simple that I think anyone can understand it on an index annuity chassis. I think they're going to dominate the industry, don't you?
I agree. I totally agree. The problem where some of that comes is obviously pricing, profitability. Insurance companies are not benevolent societies, and they're not, charity based. They are, in it some of them are in it for shareholders. Some of them are in it for members, depending on the company. If you have a stock company or a mutual company, it's very different.
Or a hedge fund.
Excuse me. Oh, hedge fund companies are getting in the business too. Yeah, but that's stock, because they have stock in those companies.
Sure.
So it's very important that with that. But I agree. I think simple is better. I also think they need to be careful when they explain all these wonderful things the annuity can do. Just because it does all these wonderful things doesn't mean there's not a cost for it.
Correct.
You're paying for it somewhere. If it does this wonderful thing, it means you got something less wonderful somewhere else for them to afford that one wonderful thing. And I agree with you, Stan. The day that they can make this simple, like a 1 or 2 sentence explanation to describe the whole thing, that guy's going to be the winner. Somebody's
going to do that. And
I believe you.
And I've been approached by carriers before about their index annuities, and every single one of them, I go, first of all, I don't promote specific products or carriers, but if I did, that's not the product, because we can't explain it to the 9-year-old. And I always say to people, and rich people out there, take this the right way, please. IQ does not, net worth does not equate into IQ. Just because you have lots of money doesn't mean you're smart. Just because you have, and I think you can say the same thing, because we've both been in the business for a long, long time, decades. Some of the dumbest people I've ever talked to have so much money they don't know what to do with it. Whether they've earned it, found a niche, it is what it is. But nothing against them, and no slight. The annuity industry can be convoluted. I blame the industry for that, and especially in the indexed annuity side. So to explain a lot of the index annuities that are out there, it's like I say, it's like showing paintings to blind people, and it's more of a relationship. So I think the index annuity space, the second it goes away from being a relationship sell to just a straight up making a decision on the facts sell, that's when you're going to see real numbers hit. Because at this point in time, people that buy index annuities that call me and say, hey, Stan, I bought this and I really don't know what I bought. And I'm like, well, why'd you buy it? Well, I really like my advisor. That's not a good reason to buy it, but I think a lot of the sales happen that way. Don't you agree?
Well, there's one misstatement in that, is that the advisor probably doesn't know what he sold either, Stan. You need to put that in there too, okay? Because if you ask them to explain the index, explain how it's weighted, explain what's in it, explain that, they can't. All they can say is, oh, it's this thing comprised of this, it's been managed. If we look back historically, here's what it did. And be careful. There's a very famous saying in the brokerage world that past performance is not indicative of current results.
Yes.
Well, I've got a new one. I'm trademarking it.
Okay, go.
Is the insurance results are not indicative. Hypothetical made up results are not indicative of a current performance.
Right.
If the indexes didn't exist, how do they come up with these returns?
And you know what I call them? I'll call all that back tested. Well, if you owned it 10 years ago, that's unicorns chasing the butterflies, and the unicorns never catch the butterflies because the butterflies are flying way above them. Meaning that this all junk.
You're 10 years too late. If that impresses you, you're 10 years too late.
By the way, Mr. X, as I always do, I put you on a pedestal because you need to be there for a lot of reasons. But one of the things that you nailed in one of the past podcasts we did was the prediction of bonuses, the upfront bonus season. Get your bonus right here. Get your upfront bonuses, free money, get your bonus. And right now, at the time of this taping, and we're typically a couple weeks out on these, markets have been a tad bit volatile, Mr. X. And, now the pitch is, well, you've lost all this money, Mr. Jones. This upfront bonus will make up for it. I swear to you, if I hear that one more time from a client going, is that real? I'm like, no, you dummy, it's not. What? I mean, can you help me with that? I feel like a cable news. You watch cable news and they talk about something and then they bring somebody on. They go, I just said this. Can you echo what I just said? It's like that's not an interview, but I need your compassion here because it's driving me crazy, Mr. X.
Well, I'm going to steal your line. You always said bonuses are candy for the stupid.
It is.
Okay. Well, I go back to, you have to understand how the bonus works. Is the bonus a real bonus in your cash account? Or is it a bonus that goes into your income account, which is all fake money, and we know that.
And most of the time,
it'll go into the income side.
And if it doesn't, it's vested, meaning that, yes, here's your upfront bonus, but, oh, by the way, Chester, you got to stay the full 10 years to get it. Or some type of rule. As I always say, there's not a philanthropist at an annuity company CEO that wakes up in the morning and goes, regardless of what Stan the Annuity Man and Mr. FIA-X said, I want to give money away to the people. No one's saying that, period.
Well, the other side is this, Stan. They may give it all up front to where it goes in your cash account, but then look at what your surrender charges are. Because your surrender charge, instead of 10%, maybe 17 or 20%. Because if you leave, guess what? They just recaptured the money they gave you. There's no free lunch. By the way, this is something that people don't really realize. You may have a higher fee structure if you have a bonus. You may have lower participation rates if you have bonus. You may have a lower cap if you have the bonus. They're going to chip away at you little by little in different ways to recoup those dollars.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you this, they haven't been around for hundreds of years because they gave all this great money away.
Right.
That's not how it works. It's actuarially penciled out when you're going to pass away and what they're going to pay out and how many people take it and how many people quit and how many people live long. And they know literally to the penny how this stuff is going to work. I promise you, they're not giving you free money. And when the agents come to you and say, oh, get out of the market and we're going to give you a bonus and it's going to offset your losses, it sounds great.
Sure.
I get to recover my money.
Sure.
Whew.
Sure. I also developed a pill, Mr. X, that if you take it, 6-pack abs in a week. You don't have to work out.
Well, because mine worked in 4 days, so I got to beat with my.
It's like the 6-pack abs, and what was it? 8-minute abs. The guy goes, "No, I wanted 7."
Yeah.
I got 7.
Here's the other problem. I want to go backwards, Stan. When we did our last call, I think it was maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was
I warned everybody come first of the year, end of the year, annuity bonus season would come.
Yes.
I also said interest rates were going to rise. They did, right?
Yes.
I also said get prepared for the Wild West because here it comes. And Stan is a man of the people, and you take these calls from clients every day.
Yes.
Has the Wild West begun?
It's in full effect.
Because
fear and greed selling right now is at its zenith point.
It is apex without question.
Unbelievable.
Because the market's not doing too great. It's been crashing, and then it's got a little choppy, and we got a little win streak, and now we're gonna, I don't know. You know what? I know 3 things about the stock market. It's going to go up, down, or stay the same. That's it. I guarantee that. You like that? Yes.
Beautiful.
30 years of doing this, and that's what I got. So there you go. It's going to go up, down, or stay the same, and that's just the way it is. And we don't know where it's going to go. That's why, like Stan says, I like safety and guarantees. Buy them for what they will do, not what they can do. Read the contract, understand what the guarantee is. Here it is.
That's it.
It's really a pretty basic game.
It is. I wanted to go backwards a little bit. We had touched on this in the previous podcast, but I get a lot of people saying, can you explain that again to me? And one of the things I get a lot of times is these options, call options with spreads, caps, and participation rates. I've written a book on that and done videos on that, so we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But can you explain just from a 30,000 foot view that it's not typically the annuity carrier themselves buying the call options? They're farming that out to the Goldman Sachs and the JP Morgans and the Credit Suisse people. Can you explain that little volleyball action that's going on?
The insurance company will go to an investment bank. Now, some of the insurance companies have their own options.
Yeah.
I don't want to mention anybody.
No, we're not going to mention
options. They do their own stuff. They keep it all internal. But others don't have that capacity. So they'll go down to, say, like a JP Morgan or a Goldman Sachs, whatever, and say, I want to buy options in the S&P 500.
Right.
And they say, okay, here's the cost of the option. They go, great. They buy them. They take about 95% of the money. They buy a bond to guarantee. They take the other 5%. They go buy the option. If the option hits, we get the winnings. If the option loses, whatever.
So the annuity company is not keeping the overage. I think people are like, well, that's not fair.
That's a huge misconception. They don't. It was funny. I just literally had this conversation 2 days ago with a very large annuity carrier. And I was talking to them about how they do their options, and we were having a conversation, and they said that they just buy the call option up to the percentage of whatever their cap might be. I said, okay, some companies, it's unlimited or however they structure it, and they just sell back the upside to the investment bank because they're only on the hook. If it's capped at 5, well, I don't need the unlimited, so why pay for it?
Right.
My exposure is only to a certain level. So this is a great way to find if you're working with a competent advisor. Ask him how they buy the option and how it's priced. If he says that they do this and they keep the profit, you're out. You just disqualify them.
Right.
The next one that I always do is like a fee or a spread. I don't know if you're going to go here, but we're here, so let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
Fees come out up or down. So if you buy when the agent says, "Oh, your principal's guaranteed. Here's an income rider." Stan, if they buy an income rider, is their principal guaranteed?
There's going to be a fee taken from the principal. If you get 0, that would be a minus from the principal.
So that is not a guarantee.
That is absolutely correct.
So if I put $100,000 in, and I think we're all going to see negatives this year. If you own an indexed annuity, be prepared for a 0. Your agent might never call you again and break the news to you, but I'll be more than happy to, because guess what? You didn't lose any money. You got 0. But if you bought an income rider and you make a 0, you are going to see a deduction from your real money account. And so if it's your first year and you put $100,000 in, you might see 99 next year or whatever the rider charges. Correct. If you had 150,000 because you had some profit, well, you're going to have about 148.5 when it's all said and done, depending on what the rider charges. It is going to go down. So when they say guarantee of principal and rider in the same sentence, that disqualifies them. They are not capable or qualified to be your advisor.
Agreed. And I always tell people the rider fee is for the life of the policy. Even when you turn on the rider, the fee continues. And one of the great explanations that I saw Mr. FIA-X give to a large crowd, half the agents fainted, the other half vomited, and then I stood up and clapped. That's how it all came down. But what he was talking,
in the back row, mind you.
I did. But here's what he said. He said, "Oh, by the way, that 8% income rider that's growing by 8% every single year that you just love and you think Jimmy Carter's in office again, it's actually increasing your income rider fee by that percentage. So the longer that you hold on to it, the more your fee is going to be once you lock it in, once you turn on the income stream." Can you explain that little anomaly, Mr. FIA-X?
Well, as you know, the rule of 72. If you don't know, the rule of 72 is money doubles. If you had 8% return, then times that by 9, 8 times 9 is 72. It will take you 9 years for your money to double, right? Rule of 72.
Right.
Okay. So if I have a 1% spread, or I'm sorry, 1% fee for my income rider, and it's say an 8% rider, just for easy math.
Yep.
At the end of 9 years, that $100,000 deposit on a 1% fee is now $200,000, guaranteed.
Just ballpark math, correct?
Guaranteed, and I'm going to pay 1% on $200,000. So isn't that really like paying 2% on 100,000?
Correct.
It doubled.
Correct.
So if you want to talk about the ultimate annuity, this is it. But it's not for you, the buyer. It's for the insurance company. They have the ultimate annuity. They are guaranteed to get an 8% cost adjustment every year on that fee for as long as there is money in that account. Now, magically, I know the advisors that listen to this show will go, well, Stan, when the money runs out, they still keep getting the check. That is correct.
That is correct.
So let's do just a little pie in the sky math real quick. If I had an 8% roll up for 10 years, I let it roll up. If I'm 65, now I'm 75.
Right.
I turn the rider on. I'm still making some return from the index, correct, Stan?
Correct.
3, 4, 5, 6%, whatever.
Wow. Wow, that's aggressive. Yeah, try 2 to 4, 5.
Okay, but I want to sell it how they're selling it. So
okay,
3,
great.
4, 5,
okay,
6, 7%, whatever it is. Okay, there's some stuff out there that will do okay. There's some stuff.
I agree. I agree.
But let's just say 5. All right, we'll just call split hairs here. So you're taking out, say your income withdrawal is 6%. You got 1% in fee of the amount. Now you're taking out 7%. You're getting 5 back. Well, that's going to probably last you about 22 to 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm 65 to 75 plus another 25, and I'm at 100 ballpark. 95 to 100. I'm doing this math in my head, folks. I'm not penciled it out
with the mask on as well, which is incredibly impressive.
So basically, let's say you make it to 95 and all your cash is emptied and you're still alive. Yes, you will get a check. But what did the insurance company capture for 30 years?
A lot.
They captured that fee structure for 30 years.
Now, let's go backwards a little bit and let's
just getting your money back, Stan.
I know. I'm stepping out of the corner, got my boxing gloves on. I'm defending the index annuity space with income riders because, you know, that it is a transfer of risk. You're transferring the risk for income riders are not a bad thing. But what I want people to understand is the index annuity income rider is not a one-size-fits-all solution when you want income in the future. There are 2 other ones that you need to consider.
Well, I'll give you one better. I'll give you even a better.
You're not even going to let me finish? Okay, go ahead.
No.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The income rider is not return. It is not yield.
Correct.
I cannot emphasize that enough, and I can't tell you how many phone calls I take. And Stan, I know you take way more than me that go, I'm getting 7-8% guaranteed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I go, no, you're not. But getting back to my really cogent point here, salient, as they say, you know, income riders do work. I mean, from a standpoint of transfer risk, lifetime income, as long as you're breathing, you can get it. But when you say to me, Stan the Annuity Man, America's Annuity Agent, I want income later, because I asked 2 questions. What do you want the money to contractually do? And when do you want those contractual guarantees to start? If the second answer is, you know, more than 1 year, we're going to quote deferred income annuities, income riders, in my newest sensation, sweeping the nation, of which I've trademarked Myga to SPIA, which we're buying short-term multi-year guarantee annuity, fixed rate annuities, and then at the duration, then rolling those to the highest paying immediate annuity at the time. What have I done? Very good question. I have stripped out all of the fees that Mr. FIA-X just talked about, no more fees. And I'm giving you flexibility of choice at the end of the duration of the Myga, and then we're shopping all carriers at that time for the highest paying immediate annuity.
Well, there's a couple more things you're giving. If it's non-qualified money, like an IRA, if it's not an IRA, 401k, that kind of stuff, you're giving them a tax exclusion ratio.
Correct.
And on that tax exclusion ratio, that will make, what it means is you don't get taxed on all the money, you're only getting taxed on the interest portion. That means more money in your pocket versus doing it the income rider way. Okay.
Agreed. That doesn't make income riders bad, but you have to look at it and you have to ask yourself, and me, and Mr. FIA-X, why is anyone else showing me this? Stan the Annuity Man, America's Annuity Agent? Because the commissions are low, as compared to an income rider attached to index annuities that make them bad. But I'm just saying there is a way to efficiently do this. And with current interest rates at the time of this taping, check the date, please. They are at a level that are seriously competitive with the potential hypothetical, theoretical, unicorn station, the butterflies return scenarios of indexed annuities, meaning that you can get 4, 4.5, and if the Fed raises again, you're going to get 5. I know 2 years from now you might laugh, but look at the date when this was done. That seriously competes head-to-head with indexed annuities. All indexed annuity people, if you want to send me your hypotheticals so I could throw them away before I shred them, you can go ahead and do that. We're talking about contractual guarantees. So I can say to a person, at the time of this taping, if your goal is to turn on income in 7 years, you can buy a 7-year Myga at 4.5% or more contractual, and knowing that that's going to happen every single year. And then at the end of the 7 years, transfer that non-taxable event, whether it's IRA, non-IRA, Roth IRA, to the highest paying SPIA, of which we quote for you. And then here's the best part. If it's non-IRA money, then the gains that you have accumulated in your Myga are stretched out over your life expectancy of the immediate annuity. Hello, Mr. FIA-X. I'm not saying that this is better than index annuities with riders, because I do sell them when they are appropriate and suitable and they win the contractual game. But the Myga to SPIA is sweeping the country. I'm telling you.
I'll take it a step further too, Stan, that I think a lot of people miss. And I think that, looking at this big number outweighs their judgment sometimes. Mm-hmm. So let's say hypothetically you did a Master of the Universe income rider and it paid $25,000 a year in income. Mm-hmm. What if I only needed $10,000 a year of income?
You're paying taxes on the rest that you don't need, Mr. FIA-X.
Well, that sounds kind of foolish now, doesn't it?
It does, but you're stuck because you got to turn it on, right?
So if I want the income, so that way, because I can't take the withdrawals because it'll prorate my account and kill my income benefit. Mm-hmm. Another little caveat in the deal. Doesn't make it bad, it just makes it read the contract, and the agent should know this. But they most likely don't usually.
Right.
So now, what if I need $10,000 of income in your Myga SPIA concept? Couldn't I just put enough in there until it does what it meets my income need for now, let the rest accumulate, and then
absolutely,
if I need more, we'll just do another bucket?
Absolutely. You're totally flexible on what you can do. I'm so into this Myga to SPIA thing. I am pounding the table so much, I think I broke my hand the other day. But the point is, it's such a no-brainer, especially with rates where they are and they're rising. Because remember, nothing wrong with index annuities, but the return on the calls options, the spreads, caps, participation rates, which can be changed at the carrier's discretion without talking to me or you. Those aren't guaranteed. There's no guarantee return. One carrier or a couple carriers out there I see telling their army to use the phrase, "Zero is your hero." If anyone says that to you, look at them and say, "You're a zero and you're not my hero." That's garbage, because you can get a guaranteed interest rate with a Myga, and zero doesn't have to be your hero. You know what else is zero is your hero, Mr. X? Your mattress, a hole in the backyard, the trunk of your car. That is garbage. And if someone says, well, zero is your hero, that person is a schmuck. That agent doesn't know what they're doing, and they're just spewing the line. They're like cable news. And when you turn on cable news and whatever channel you're watching, they're all saying the same thing, and they all got the talking points. Zero is your hero is an annuity talking point that needs to go away, just like me and you have destroyed the word hybrid to describe. We have single-handedly destroyed that word to be used in the index.
There's no such thing as a hybrid.
There's a plant, is a car, it's a mattress, but it's not an annuity. Remember back in the day when we started hammering that with, well, this is a hybrid annuity. What? What are you talking about? Every annuity is a hybrid if you're going to do that. That's nuts. But there's just a lot of, you got to be careful with some of the talking points out there on the index annuity space. I really wish they would just be honest with people. Hey, it's a 7-year contract. It's a 1-year call option, which means that call option can change every single year at the carrier's discretion. What we've done is looked at the renewal rates to make sure that they're fair to the consumer, but you have to understand that we're going to make that choice every year. What's so hard about that statement I just made, Mr. X?
Yeah, or whether it's a 2-year, 3-year, there's all different kinds of calls, whatever it is. You know, if you go a little longer on the option, you get a better opportunity for upside because you'll have more participation because the company pays less. They're like, well, how could they do that? I'm like, well, if you bought a 1-year subscription to a newspaper or you bought the 2-year subscription to the newspaper, which is cheaper?
That's a great correlation.
I'm going to buy the 2-year subscription to the newspaper and I just saved X amount of dollars. Well, when I get that X amount of savings, I can go buy more leverage in whatever the index is. But why we're talking about indices, Stan, I think this is a great transition right here.
By the way, that's index. Index is plural for the people that grew up where I grew up.
And so, yeah, exactly. Me too. But the reality of this is, so be careful with these so-called participation rates. And you're going to get 200, 300% participating because they can do that because the interest rates have really, really jumped in our marketplace, which is great for annuities. It's bad if you want to buy a house or a car, but for annuities, it's fantastic.
Right.
What am I participating in should be the question, which will go to my number 3 of how to check your advisor. If they can't explain the index, don't buy it.
That's a great one. You get 200% participation rate. Have a question, sir. What am I participating in?
Well, someone please tell me what I'm participating in. Oh, this index has, you know, rusty beer cans and fish hooks. Oh, but I get 300% of that. Fantastic.
I did a podcast with someone a lot more famous and smart than you the other day, Mr. X. His name was Moshe Milevsky. And Moshe said, he said, always ask awkward questions. I think that is so true. When he said that, I'm like, you're right. You're right. Ask your annuity person awkward questions. I know people ask me that all the time. Like, are you really that tall, Stan? Yes. Is your hair really that large and standing straight up? Yes, without the baseball cap. Those are awkward questions. But yes, ask your annuity person, what are you participating in? You know,
but this was the greatest. No, you're going to love this one because this was a real scenario. And this gentleman called me and he goes, I have a client and they sent me this illustration over, and I go, okay, so you're getting 125% here, 115%. Let's see what we're getting that up. Well, the index has been out for less than 2 years. But they said the 10-year return was X, but the index had been around a little over 18 months. Well, first of all, I'm confused of how you're getting a 10-year return with
exactly.
This. And for all the agents that listen to you, yes, hypotheticals are BS. It's hypothetical for a reason.
Exactly.
They broke it into four different investments.
Keyword hype.
Keyword. They broke it into 4 different investments.
Right.
So I said, well, let's look up each index and see what's inside the index because they want you to be diversified.
So you're telling me if I go buy a house to actually go inside the house?
Well, you do get an inspection, don't you?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I want you to read the inspection report is what I want you to do. You don't have to go in, just read the report, please. When I pulled apart what's inside the index, it's all the same crap. 2-year notes, 5-year notes, 10-year notes, and the indices might have been a hair different, but some of them had S&P, some of them had 12 sectors of the S&P, some of them had stuff I've never even heard of.
Is that what you call fish? What'd you call fish hooks and shoelaces?
Rusty beer cans and fish hooks, yeah. So I can make you an index right now. My index would be Apple stock, gold, and oil, and I'm going to do a 10-year run on that. How much would that return?
It would be okay.
It would be astronomical, and then I'll show it to you, and then go, here you go. The only difference with my index is that stuff actually was around for 10 years.
And the reason that they do that, Mr. X, is answer the question, is it because they can buy these made up out of thin air indexes plural, cheaper than the S&P? Is that why they do it?
That's 100% why they do it. This happened back about 6-7 years ago. And it takes probably a good year to 18 months to get something to the marketplace. They can hurry it up if they have to, but they have to have product slots and times.
Right.
You know, you have to have space on the conveyor belt to put it in. If that makes sense. Okay.
Right.
They get it together when the market went bad in 07, 08, 09, as we all recall. Right.
Yes. Yes.
Well, the participation rates, the caps, everything got clobbered because the option cost was so expensive. Ridiculously expensive in the S&P. So they had to come up with other ways to create stuff to generate business. And I got it. We'll build these crazy indexes, if you want, whatever you want to call it. We're going to build an index. with this, 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 and this, and we'll backcast it to show how wonderful it would be if it existed.
Wouldn't you love to have been in that first meeting when the guy came up with that? It's kind of like the guy when he is pitching, we're going to do a network just on food. It's going to be called the Food Channel. And they're like, yeah, whatever.
Whatever, right. But that's what happens. But then they run these scenarios and they say, look at all this great stuff. Look how great this would have done. But if you do your homework, you will uncover it doesn't do quite as great as they say.
And some of those people get to change what's inside of that index at their discretion. You got to look at that. I mean, I personally believe that the back testing of indexes, plural, that have not been around for the back tested time period, 10 years, should not be back tested. So if something's been around 2 years, then you do a 2-year back test. If it's been around 6 months, you do a 6-month back test. That should be law. There's a lot of things. That should be law. Men over 50 should not wear cutoff t-shirts, should be a law. There's a lot of laws that I want out there, Mr.
Right.
X.
But I think one of your laws is definitely fair. I think that you should only be able to publish for the time that it's been evolved. I don't think
that's common sense.
I think it is. You think it is. But the reality is there's companies out there and software companies and people making a fortune publishing these lack of reality illustrations or whatever you want to call it. And they make a living out of saying, this would have done this. And now I go see my 75-year-old retiree client saying, this would have done this. I go, well, that sounds great. Then they put it in there, and then this doesn't do that. And now
see, I think there's nothing wrong with an index made up of thin air. I got nothing against these, but here's what you say. It was just created. So we really don't have any past performance numbers. But I think, Mr. Jones, that this basket index, whatever, looks pretty good. Don't you agree? What's wrong with that as a sales pitch? Why can't we do that?
Because greed outweighs common sense.
I know. I know. I before we let this hour get away from us, because it's always fun with you, Mr. FIA-X. And
by the way, I have one thing. I want all those agents to send your backcasting in to Stan, and then Stan will send them to me, and then let's have a phone call, Stan, and I'll shred them into 100,000 pieces.
Yeah, you don't.
With reality, not with hypothetical, with real.
The last thing an agent wants in their lifetime is, number one, a physical. Okay, but number two is Mr. FIA-X and myself looking over their shoulder at what they're selling and what they're pitching, because that's a train wreck. I always laugh when people say, well, this is what he said, and they're like, and I said, tell that person that Stan the Annuity Man said this, and typically that ends that one. I want to pivot, as I always do, Mr. X.
Yes, sir.
To something new, something perceived wonderful that a lot of people are commenting on that have no clue what they're doing, and a lot of people that are selling it that have absolutely no clue what they're selling. The beloved, what I call copay annuities, also called AKA buffer and or shield annuities. I need you to weigh in, X. I need it.
I think you hit it on the head. I mean, if you're willing to take a 10, 15, 25% loss, because you get to pick your target of how much you're acceptable to lose. What I mean by that is you can participate in there, but the first X amount of loss, you absorb. You absorb that. So if you say my threshold's 10%, you put 100 grand in. When it hits 90, then you don't lose anymore. But you sheltered the first 10 grand, which means you got to make 11.5% to get square.
It's a margin call without the call.
Yeah.
It's a margin call without someone calling you and say, hey, you owe us money. They just take it out of your account.
I know some of the guys out there, they're like, I sell it. Here's what they do every year. I'll go in and I get to reset annually, and I'll go flip them into this, and then we'll catch it back another time. And it's like, me personally, yes. If you look at their sales literature, if you're willing to shelter that risk, then, maybe do the whole thing, because only maybe 3, 4, 5% of the time it hits that actual number. So you got a 95% chance of never getting there. Why would you copay it when you could have all of it?
as I always tell people, if you want real market returns,
you gotta be in the
consistent
market.
market returns, do not buy annuities. Now, if you want to protect principal and get, the 3 or 4 or 5% that maybe an index annuity would do, or maybe a buffer annuity would do, then that's fine. But don't go into it being an idiot, thinking you're going to have your cake and eat it too, because you're not.
You're never gonna get all the market return.
No.
It was never, ever, 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 never designed for that.
I hope this doesn't happen. But those products, and I don't sell them, disclaimer, I don't sell buffer annuities. Again, I really like selling things that you can explain to 9-year-olds. No offense to 9-year-olds. I do simplify it. I am the annuity whisperer out here, as you know, Mr. X. But I do see these buffer annuities being a target for aggressive lawyers, as they might say. I mean, in a arbitration or court of law, and that agent, advisor, master of the universe, wealth architect, I'm going to tell you, I would bet at all that less than 5% of those people could explain that product.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I also, they can explain the finer points of it, not the detail points. And the detail points are, is if you really dig into their literature and you really start looking at what it is, the number is actually quite small that it ever hits those deep levels. Why are you giving up so much then? If that is your game plan and that is your theory, and Stan, here's the biggest thing. I want all the clients out there that listen to this. How much are you willing to give up in return to never risk your money?
Right.
That's it. When you can hit that number, then you make our job so easy.
Well, and it's like I did a video that's gone viral that says, you've won the game, why are you still playing? If you can get 4.5% contractual, then why are you putting your money at risk to get 7? If 4.5 can give you the interest needed without touching your principal, why are you putting your money at risk to get 7?
Because greed outweighs common sense.
Exactly. Or why are you going into a product that is so convoluted and so complex? And I know the people that put it together are smart people. I get it, but they're not thinking through it from a consumer standpoint, an exposure standpoint. And yes, I know there's all kinds of disclaimers, but you and I both know lawyers don't read disclaimers when they want to go at a company. I just think that this is a reflection of what happens in low interest rate environments. They create these products to sell that sound good, that looks like it's taking advantage or leveraging. And it's really, really not. You're going to see these products go away as interest rates continue to rise, because as interest rates continue to rise, then people will go, well, wait a minute. I can get 4.5 or 5 or whatever it raises to contractual guarantee without all this nonsense. And that's what people will do. And they won't have to have formulas and algorithms and inverted, formulas from Harvard that it kills me all the time. I see these in the index annuities and buffer annuities, like prospectuses, whatever they call them, specimen policies. And some of the mathematical formulas that I have to legally list in there, I have no clue what that is. I'm not selling it if I don't know the mathematical formula. And me and you both didn't pass that math class.
I didn't know there were so many letters in math.
Yeah. I thought math. That's a good one. If you think math involves numbers, then you might want to reconsider index options and buffer annuities, because they have letters in them as well, and parentheses. I didn't know parentheses.
147 ES with the squiggly. What is this? I don't know. But
exactly.
And I'm back to all the way to our beginning point. If you can't understand it, don't buy it.
Right.
If you can't, and if he can't understand it, definitely don't buy it.
So where do you see our industry going with these indexed annuities and buffered annuities and all these really complicated things? Do you think they're realizing they need to go more simplistic, or do you think they're just keep going down the rabbit hole?
I don't think they do realize, and I think that almost sounds like a loaded question.
No, it's not. It actually is a dumb Southerner question, because I'm a dumb Southerner.
You really think, I really think where they're going to go is because they're going to have a lot of extra money now because bond rates are so high. Mm-hmm. And when I say so high, 4, 5, 6% or whatever.
Yeah, at the time of this taping, relative, yes.
But
correct.
when they were doing at 1.5%, 4 or 5 sounds astronomical.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So they're going to have a lot of leftover money, because remember, they were buying 95% of it basically at a 1.5% interest rate. Well, now it's 4.5%, so they don't have to spend as much money to get the same 95%. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So I have all this leftover cash. So what am I going to do? I am telling you, this is the beginning of the arms race. You are going to see the wildest stuff happen in our
like what?
market.
Like what?
I think they're going to try to make this stuff look so market-esque with safety. I think you're going to see ridiculous participation rates, ridiculous leverage inside these indices. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500% leverage. I think you're going to see all that. I think you're going to see features on the products like we've never seen before, but I don't necessarily know if that feature will do any kind of benefit for the client.
Right.
But it'll sound good.
So the arms race of marketing is going to ramp up because of the demographic
and last but not least, you're going to love this one, Stan.
I hear you. Let's hear it.
You are going to see an arms race of income. They are going to make this income rider story look so flippin' amazing. It'll make your head spin.
Give me more. What are you thinking?
I'm just getting into the rabbit hole a little bit on that one, but because I just started with this with a call that I had, and
okay.
I just think what they're gonna do is more of a participating income, not like like some of them have a flat, you get a 6, 7, 8% roll up.
Right.
I think they're gonna have a higher guarantee, maybe a 5.5%, 6% guarantee, or the income or the interest return. So you can see a bigger roll up of money, so it'll be compounded from what the return is. So I think you're going to see more of that, to where you're going to see these really insane income numbers. Like you're going to get $70,000 a year in income from this, and blah, 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 blah.
I agree.
But it's still going to all work the same. The numbers are going to be bigger, but the function is the same.
Moshe Milevsky had a similar thought on it too. He was, he's big on these tontines, which is just a shared risk pool, been done for hundreds and hundreds of years. But he sees that being somehow packaged over here in the United States so that, in essence, last man standing gets more income. And, as people drop off, the people get more income as people drop off. He's predicting that that's going to be how they're going to do income riders in the future. The other thing that I thought was fascinating too, Mr. X, I'm disappointed you didn't listen to the Moshe Milevsky podcast, but I'm assuming you will right after this. But he also said this. He said that he sees income products in the future that will also target specific health issues. Like you'll have an income rider for diabetics, and an income, and he's thinking that income's going to be attached to health somehow, or health issues or underlying conditions, which
you know what's funny?
That's funny, man. I was not funny, but that was fascinating. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, now there's the way to do it. If you're going to be able to do it, that's the way to do it.
Let's go back 20 years real quick. You remember rated SPIAs?
Well, yes, and we still sell some rated SPIAs. And what that is for the people listening out there, an immediate annuity, you can go through the underwriting process, medical testing, to prove to the annuity company that your life expectancy is actually less than what is projected based on your age. And because you can show them that medically, then the payments will be higher. So in essence, you're proving your life expectancy to be less, but you have to go through underwriting. Go forward with that. That's what that is, rated SPIAs.
So that's really what Moshe is talking about. It's almost like they're going to do a rated income rider is basically what it's going to be. If I have diabetes, it probably shaves a few years, unfortunately, off my life. So you should pay me more than Mr. Healthy that's going to live way past life expectancy.
So he was talking about my income rider calculator, and I'm the only one in the world with an income rider calculator that's real at the time of this taping. He said in the future, you're going to be able to drop it down and go defer for 7 diabetes, defer for 7 pre-cancer. Think about that. That's pretty interesting. And I do think that's coming in some form or fashion. And the first people to get there is going to win, because why? If you're pre-diabetic like I am, clock's ticking, you better take care of yourself. But that income rider guarantee that the annuity company is going to provide could pay higher because I'm a pre-diabetic. It makes total sense if you think about it, X.
It does, and with having all this extra money left over, because the rates are so much higher, they can do, like I said, they can do more of these features. There's a cost for everything. When you build the annuity, if I want 10% free withdrawal in the first 30 days, there's a cost for that. Why? Because the insurance companies have to reserve for it, like everybody's going to take it. So that costs them money to keep on the sideline. So if I have more money, well, I can put more things in, and that's how it works. It's a pretty simple format.
Mr. X, do you see the index annuity space, do you see it being more positive for the consumer going forward into 2022, 2023, 2024, or do you see it becoming even more complicated?
I think it's going to be more positive, but more complicated. How's that? Because I do think guarantees are important. I do. I don't think that. I don't think everyone. This is going to shock a lot of people. I don't think every single person needs to be in the stock market, and I don't think every single person needs to own an annuity.
Thank goodness for that statement.
I think every single person needs to sit down with a competent person and have their financial conversation and spend more time on your financial plan than planning for your vacation.
And your advisor should never be your friend. Your advisor should never be your friend. You should never go golfing with them. You should never know about their kids. You should never talk about the game on Saturday. I just did a video on this. It's going to release pretty soon. You need an annuity cancer doctor. You need someone. You don't want your oncologist to walk in and start talking about the game. Because the game is you. The game is your money. The game is your life. The game is chapter 2 of your life. The game is fulfilling your lifestyle that you've worked so hard to fulfill. You don't need a friend. And so one of the reasons that I think my organization is so popular is we're straightforward. We're not your friend. You know, my site is where annuities are bought, not sold. Yes, we do sell them, but you're going to buy them on your terms and your time frame. Just be careful out there. If someone's trying to be chummy and, you know, that's a red flag. If someone shows you, well, my mom bought it, my dad bought it, and I bought it, and they show you this statements, get them, walk out. That's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. And that needs to stop in the industry as well. I'm going on a rant here, X. I apologize for that.
Well, don't fall off your soapbox. Keep going.
You know, we got to wrap it up. And as I always do, Mr. X, it's always fantastic. And I hope that our Learjets cross paths again, you know, when, you know, we land in Aspen. And there are times we land in Aspen and I get off my Learjet. I see you like down the tarmac, but I don't want to give the effort to walk down there, but I wave. Is that enough for you, Mr. X?
You just give the F, not the effort.
I mean, it is. Obviously, all of that's not true.
You know what? I'll give you my prediction because I'm batting like 1,000 on these predictions.
You're incredible.
Okay. Myga rates are going to go up.
Yes.
That's not a big one. That's easy because we know that the Fed's going to raise rates again.
Yes.
And they're going to go up.
Yes.
Market's going to stay choppy at least until November. Then November, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Okay. And then my last one is watch out in the indexed annuity market of what's going to happen. It is going to be bananas. What you're going to see, it's going to be more bananas of what you're going to hear and what they're going to tell you. So I will leave you with one piece of advice. If you can't read it and understand it, don't buy it.
And that is your mic drop moment from the infamous and anonymous Mr. FIA-X, a personal friend and confidant, my little brother, both figuratively and literally in the annuity space. I have to talk about your height sometimes because I'm 6'6". I mean, I can see that annuity market's better than you. Just
what do you do?
But here's the thing, Mr. X, I always appreciate you joining us. I appreciate every single person out there that's joining us on all major podcast platforms and on the Fun with Annuities YouTube channel. I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to Fun with Annuities. Please hit the subscribe button and make sure to go to my site at theannuityman.com, where you can run your own SPIA, DIA, and QLAC quotes and see a live feed of the best Myga fixed rates in the country, and even get indexed and income rider quotes as well. You can also sign up for my 6 annuity owner's manual books, and I'll ship them for free and under no obligation. I also encourage you to schedule a one-on-one call with me, Stan the Annuity Man, so we can have a full discussion of your specific situation. It will be the best brutally factual and truthful advice you will ever get. And that's one guarantee you should definitely take advantage of. So join me next time for the #1 annuity podcast on the planet, Fun with Annuities.